I told my husband he was a failure, and now he's thriving without me, while I'm stuck drowning in regret. I'm Emma, and I'm 34 years old. If you had told me a year ago that my husband, Noah, would be doing better without me, I would have laughed in your face. But here we are. Noah lost his job last year, and at first, I felt bad for him. Who wouldn't? But let's be real. He wasn't exactly pulling in big bucks even before that happened. Noah was the steady, reliable type, and while that was charming when we first got married, it wore thin quickly. I was picking up extra shifts as a dental assistant just to afford some nice things, while he worked a predictable, low-paying IT job. It wasn't enough to keep us afloat, and I knew it. When he came home that day, pale-faced and shaky-voiced, I felt something I'm not proud of. Annoyance. Instead of rushing to comfort him, all I could think was, great, now I have to carry us both. He cried in the kitchen, right there in front of me, and I just stared at him. I should have hugged him or said something reassuring, but I didn't. All I felt was this heavy sense of dread, like he was sinking, and I'd have to sink with him. At first, I tried to be patient, but every day it felt like less and less effort was coming from him. He said he was job hunting, but I'd see him send out a couple of resumes and then spend hours scrolling on his phone. It's a tough market, he'd say, or I'm waiting to hear back from a good lead. But I didn't believe him. I started wondering how different my life could have been if I had married someone with more drive, someone who didn't crumble the second life through a curveball. One night, after a couple of glasses of wine, I let my frustrations out. I told him he needed to pull himself together because I couldn't keep being the only adult in the house. He looked devastated, but all he said was, "I'm doing my best, Emma." And I snapped. Well, your best isn't good enough. The words were out before I could stop them, and the look on his face will haunt me forever. After that, Noah started pulling away. He spent hours in the spare room, which became his makeshift office. We barely spoke, and when we did, it was stiff and awkward. I could feel the distance growing, but instead of trying to bridge it, I let it happen. The breaking point came one night when I came home late after drinks with my friends. He was waiting for me in the living room, looking more exhausted than I'd ever seen him. "Emma, I think we need to talk," he said. I rolled my eyes. "What now?" He took a deep breath and said he felt like I didn't respect him anymore, that I wasn't even trying to be there for him. And instead of denying it or apologizing, I said something I'll regret forever. Maybe I don't. That was it. He packed a bag that night and left. I thought he'd cool off and come back in a few days, but days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. Meanwhile, I was drowning, struggling to keep up with bills, dodging calls from debt collectors, and sinking deeper into financial ruin. Noah, on the other hand, was thriving. He found a new job that paid more than both of our incomes combined. He started working out, and every picture I saw of him on social media showed a polished, confident man I barely recognized. And then there was the woman. She appeared in a few of his photos, smiling that perfect smile while he looked at her like she was the center of his world. It felt like a slap in the face. Now, I'm sitting alone in the apartment we used to share, trying to figure out how I let it all fall apart. Part of me still wants to blame him. If he'd been stronger, if he hadn't fallen apart, maybe I wouldn't have either. But deep down, I know the truth. I pushed him away. I've replayed that night in my head 1,000 times. The way his face fell when I said I didn't respect him. I thought I was being honest, but I was really just being cruel. I reached out to him a couple of months ago, sent a text asking if we could talk. He replied 2 days later, short and to the point. I don't think that's a good idea. It hurt more than I expected, but I didn't push. I knew he was right. Now I'm trying to pick up the pieces of the life I thought we'd built together. I've started seeing a therapist who says I need to take accountability, but I don't even know where to begin. It wasn't like I set out to ruin my marriage. I was just trying to survive. But now, survival feels harder than ever. And every time I see Noah's happy, thriving face on Instagram, I can't help but wonder. Was I the problem all along? Update. Divorce was brutal, but not in the way you might think. Noah didn't fight me. He didn't argue over assets or drag things out. Instead, he calmly agreed to everything, as if he'd already made peace with letting me go. And that made it hurt even more. In the months since, I've learned that the real fight wasn't in court. It's been within myself. I thought time would heal, that I'd eventually move on and rebuild my life. Instead, it feels like time has only sharpened the pain, reminding me of all the ways I sabotaged something good. I wake up every day thinking about Noah. Not in a romantic, I miss my husband way, but in a gut-wrenching, why couldn't I make it work way? What was wrong with me that I couldn't appreciate the man he was? Therapy has given me just enough self-awareness to know I was the problem, but not enough to fix what's broken. My therapist says I need to focus on self-growth. But how do you grow when you feel stuck in the same miserable cycle? I tried dating, thinking maybe it would help me move on. It didn't. A few weeks ago, I went out with a guy named Lucas, a personal trainer who had his life completely together. He was talking about his 5-year plan and saving for a house, and I just sat there feeling like a fraud. All I could think about was how Noah and I were supposed to be building that life together. And now I couldn't even pretend I had my act together. After the date, I sat in my car for an hour, staring at the steering wheel. I wanted to cry, but couldn't. Maybe because crying feels like admitting defeat, and I'm not ready to fully admit how much I've lost. Financially, I'm barely scraping by. The second job I picked up at a coffee shop only makes a dent in my debt. It's embarrassing to be 34 and struggling while people my age are buying houses and going on vacations. And then there's Noah. He's thriving in every sense of the word. He and his new girlfriend Tara seem perfect together. She's everything I wasn't, supportive, kind, and secure in herself. I saw pictures of them on a weekend trip to Napa, and he looked happier than I ever saw him with me. I hate her, even though she's done nothing wrong. She's just better than me in every way that matters. Last week, I caved and called Noah. Told myself it was just to hear his voice, but deep down, I think I was hoping for some kind of connection, something to pull me out of this spiral. He answered, but he sounded different, stronger, happier. I told him I missed him and apologized for everything. There was a long pause before he said, "Emma, I've moved on. I hope you can too." That calm, final tone in his voice broke something in me. There was no anger, no blame, just a quiet certainty that his life no longer had room for me. I hung up and sat on the floor, staring at the wall. It hit me then for the first time that he's truly gone. Not just physically, but emotionally. He's built a life that I'm not part of, and I have to live with the fact that I pushed him away. The divorce didn't just end our marriage. It shattered the future I thought I'd have. It's not even about Noah anymore. Not entirely. It's about the stability and partnership I thought we were building. The life I convinced myself I deserved. When he left, he took all of that with him. And now I'm left trying to pick up the pieces. I've realized I never truly valued Noah for who he was. I was so focused on what he wasn't. Ambitious enough, successful enough, that I missed how much he gave. He was kind, steady, and would have done anything for me. I threw that away because I thought I could do better, and now I'm living with the consequences. The regret is the hardest part. It's this constant weight on my chest, a reminder of everything I lost because I couldn't appreciate what I had. Therapy helps, but accountability is hard. It's easier to blame Noah for leaving, or my parents for not teaching me how to manage money, or the world for not giving me what I thought I deserved. But deep down, I know my life is where it is because of choices I made. I'm trying to change, though. I've started budgeting and cutting back on spending, not because I want to, but because I have to. I'm reading self-help books, as cliché as that feels, and trying to figure out who I am without him. I haven't spoken to Noah since that phone call, and I don't think I ever will again. He's happy, and I respect that. As much as I want to fix things, I know it wouldn't do any good. He deserves better than who I was, and I don't want to mess up the new life he's built. So here I am, stuck in this crappy apartment, working 2 jobs, and trying to move forward. Some days I feel like I'm making progress. Other days, I feel like I'm right back where I started, trapped in a cycle of regret and self-pity. But I know I don't want to stay here forever. I don't want to be the bitter ex-wife who can't let go of the past. I want to find happiness again, even if it's not the kind I thought I'd have. I want to learn how to be okay on my own, without needing someone else to validate me. It's not easy, but maybe that's the point. Maybe the things worth having are the ones you have to work for. I didn't understand that when I was with Noah, but I'm starting to now. And maybe, just maybe, that's a step in the right direction. For now, that's enough.